collection, my personal collection.
One thing I treated myself to before COVID was the internet radio. That plays what you
I'm ready? Okay. Good afternoon, Ponders. Here we are, Friday again. When we were working, Friday really meant something. Now it's just another day. Today, I'm delighted to participate in the celebration of Mida Kalin's 103rd birthday. And to honor her, we're going to read a short biographical insert that she wrote for a book which Woodland Pond residents published in 2013 called War Times Remembered. And this book was edited by Pete Johnston, who since passed away, and also by Anne and Ray Smith. It's a collection of over 24 wartime remembrances of World War II and the Korean War. Residents were asked to submit their recollections, and it was bound in this book. This book is available in the library, but it's also available on Amazon for $9.99. It's a really good read. An Army Nurse's Memories of World War II. Unlike the experiences of the young men who fought and killed and were wounded or permanently disabled during World War II, my experience as an Army nurse was interesting and I enjoyed it. I had gained considerable experience as an operating room nurse before I joined the Army, so I was pleased to be assigned to the operating rooms no matter where I was sent. 6 weeks of basic training at a very basic camp, apparently hastily built on a patch of prairie in Colorado, introduced me to Army life. Our living quarters consisted of a series of small rooms just large enough to hold a chest of drawers, 2 narrow cots, and not much else. There were no closets, and the walls and ceilings were unfinished, leaving the 2x4s and insulation exposed. On a trip to Colorado Springs the next day, I purchased a hammer and some nails to pound into the 2x4s so that we could hang up our clothes and the small mirror my roommate brought, and our room was then habitable. Every morning before breakfast, we assembled in a large room where a nimble young woman with a beautiful figure led us through beneficial exercises to keep fit. After breakfast, a sergeant worked with us for an hour, trying to teach us to march in an orderly manner. This was hard for me because no matter whether he ordered us to turn left or right, I always turned right. Finally, he ordered me to put a rock in my left shoe to help me remember that I had a left side. The rest of the day was spent listening to lectures and participating in practical demonstrations, such as how to put up a tent or how to tie useful knots. On the last day, full of information, we waited excitedly for our first orders, which would tell us where we were being sent. I was hoping for orders to go overseas, perhaps to a temporary hospital close to a battlefield where wounded soldiers could be treated quickly, but I was destined to be disappointed. My first assignment was to report to the operating room supervisor at Fitzsimmons Hospital in Aurora, Colorado, a suburb of Denver. It was just a large Army hospital surrounded by several acres of green lawn with an officers' club and somewhat permanent housing on one edge of the lawn. By the time I arrived, the lawn had been covered by new buildings to house the extra doctors and nurses and other new workers. There was also a chapel, a movie theater, a large general store called the Post Exchange, a restaurant with a small dance floor, a clubhouse for nurses, and a clubhouse for GIs and WACs, the Women's Army Corps. In short, it had become a small village where almost everyone could find something to do while off duty, and I quickly forgot my disappointment. I spent almost 2 years there until the war in Japan ended, and I got orders to go to a large general hospital in Tokyo, which turned out to be the most interesting part of my career. To get to Japan, I was transported with 99 other nurses on a troop ship. Bunk beds had been placed side by side and filled a large area where we sat, slept, read, and played cards. To get exercise, we could leave our beds and take a walk on the deck. We crossed the international date line on my birthday, which meant that we had two May 29ths in a row. Some friends helped me celebrate both birthdays. The birthday cakes were a large sweet roll with a tampon stuck in the middle as a candle, which we did not try to light. When we landed in Yokohama, my first surprise was being greeted by a polite, friendly smile on any Japanese person we encountered. Politeness I could understand, but not all of that willingness to be friendly with their recent American enemies. I know that the Americans they captured during the war were not treated with smiles. The Japanese were often cruel captors. Furthermore, we had dropped nuclear bombs on two of their cities and done considerable damage with ordinary bombs, imprisoned and were executing some of their leaders, and had occupied the country and taken over their government. Even if they remembered that they had begun the war, they should surely be feeling resentful. But if that was the case, they were very good at concealing their feelings. It puzzled me. After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, we hated the Japs, of course, but I found myself liking most of them while I was in Japan. Their friendly manner and willingness to please made them easy to work with. Our bombs had made a shambles of Yokohama. As we drove through it on our way to Tokyo, there was nothing to see but piles of shattered boards on each side of the road. The air had an unpleasant smell of rotting raw meat that added to the desolation and made me wonder if there could still be dead bodies under those boards. However, it was not dead bodies polluting the atmosphere. The smell was equally noticeable in Tokyo. A few days later, I had an opportunity to ride into the countryside. I had hoped to have a chance to breathe some fresh air, but the smell there was overwhelming. The Japanese were not wasteful, so they used human fecal material to fertilize their fields. Most of it was collected in Tokyo in large wooden buckets and placed in a row on long, narrow carts to be hauled out of the city. They were a common sight on the streets of Tokyo, and the soldiers dubbed them honey buckets. After a while, I got accustomed to the scent and ceased to notice it. When we got away from Tokyo one weekend, I learned that the absence of resentment that puzzled me was not absent in several pretty small towns a few of us decided to visit. When we got out to walk around, we were tolerated, but no one wanted to speak to us, and we were stared at with obvious dislike. In the last village, not so pretty, where the inhabitants appeared to be poorer, two men appeared and seemed to be asking for something. We could not understand them since we did not speak Japanese. When we failed to respond and began to walk away, two more men joined them, and the four of them stared at us with such threatening expressions that we decided not to linger. They followed us back to our jeeps, but it didn't attack us, and we were happy to get back to the smiling Japanese citizens of Tokyo. The Americans employed many Japanese workers. They were efficient and hardworking and had one work habit that always amazed me. They seemed to think that any job that needed to be done could be done best by two people, and when possible, they worked in pairs. I watched two of them wrap and tie up a small box without getting in each other's way. There was always something new to see and do in Japan, and for young Army nurses, the social life was excellent too. The depressing things were the injured soldiers who could often not be helped, even by the most skillful surgeons, and the great waste and inefficiency that seems to be unavoidable in the armed services. Sometimes a war might be necessary, but I left the Army convinced that war is more likely to create more problems than it solves, and nothing has happened since then to alter my opinion. Mida added a brief biographical note about her background. I was born in 1917 in Eldon, Missouri. 2 years later, my parents moved to Laramie, Wyoming, where we lived on a ranch for 6 years. I have many happy memories of that period. In 1930, we moved back to Eldon. The Great Depression had begun. My father, who built houses, discovered that not many persons at that time wanted to buy a new house. Hard times followed, and there was no money for me to go to college. Marriage or an eventual career as a teacher, secretary, or nurse were the main choices available to young women at that time. I chose nursing and took my training at the Deaconess Hospital in St. Louis, followed by the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, where I specialized in operating room nursing. I then returned to the Deaconess Hospital to spend 2 years as an operating room supervisor before going into the Army Nurse Corps. In 1947, I left the Army to marry Robert Kalin, whom I met in the Army. We had a son and a daughter. When they reached school age, I went to work at the Benedictine Hospital in Kingston as a clinical instructor in OR nursing. I retired at 50, but soon realized that I would like to work part-time. I was offered a job as a full-time operating room supervisor at the VA hospital in Castle Point, New York, where I worked until I was 65. Retirement often meant that you simply get busy doing something else. My husband and I enjoyed our busy retirement until he became ill and died in 2008. I moved to Woodland Pond in 2009. Thank you all for listening. And again, this book is available, War Times Remembered, World War II in Korea, on Amazon, and I think there is 1 or 2 copies in our library. At 2 o'clock, the celebration of Mida's life and birthday will begin.
So, good afternoon. If it's Friday, it must be sports trivia. Hi, Bobby. I love you. And let me say hello to Alan and Myra and Lori and Jay. Today is your lucky day because today I'm going to reveal my picks for the 10 best baseball players in history. You didn't know that, but today is the day. And a disclaimer, the management of Woodland Pond has nothing to do with it. They deny any responsibility. So let me tell you a quick story first about my professional baseball experience. It began and ended on the same day. The Brooklyn Dodgers were holding tryouts at Ebbets Field. They said that anybody that comes down in a baseball uniform could try out. And the kicker was they could stay and see the game for free. And that was the part that enticed me. A free game was a good deal. So anyhow, I showed up at Ebbets Field 10 o'clock in the morning with a friend of mine. And I was told to go out in the outfield and chase fly balls, which I did. Nothing exciting happened. Just lazy, easy fly balls. Balls that probably my grandmother could have caught. And then they called me up to hit a few. And I took some batting practice. Didn't do anything much. I wasn't much of a hitter to begin with. A few fly balls, a lot of ground balls. I think one hard hit line drive was all I could manage. They never asked me what position I played, which was shortstop for my high school team. And I never had a chance to even play the infield or play any ground balls. And the next thing I knew, the coach was signaling me to come over to the side. And he had a paper in his hand and he said, "Congratulations, you've earned a contract with one of the Dodger farm teams." I said, "What team?" He said, "Fort Worth." I said, "Where in the world is Fort Worth?" And he told me it was in Texas. Texas sounded like it could have been the moon, because in those days, the furthest west for baseball was St. Louis and Chicago. Anyhow, I told him I couldn't sign the contract. And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, my mother will kill me." And he said, "How come?" I said, "Well, she's expecting me to start college in September. And the last thing she would want is for me to be off to Texas." So I never signed a contract. I never even read it. Had no idea how much money they were offering me. And later that afternoon, while I was watching this free game, I thought to myself, what did I do to earn a contract? I caught a few easy fly balls. I swung the bat a few times. Didn't do anything spectacular. Why were they offering me a contract? And the only thing I could come up with was I had 2 arms and 2 legs, and they were just looking for bodies to send to Fort Worth, Texas. In fact, my friend was also invited to a contract in Fort Worth, and he declined also. So that's how I was in and out of baseball on the same day. Anyhow, now here are my picks for the 10 best baseball players of all time. To make it more exciting as they do on TV, I'll start with number 10. And number 10, the only thing worse than my reading is my writing. Number 10 is Roberto Clemente, right fielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Great outfielder, could hit, could run, could throw, but his career was ended shortly. He was in a plane crash while he was delivering food and aid to Nicaragua. Nicaragua had a bad crisis. I think it was an earthquake. And he was bringing food supplies, and he died in a plane crash. And his number was retired in Pittsburgh. And I believe they have a statue of Roberto Clemente right outside the ballpark. Number 9, Henry Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was the one that broke Babe Ruth's home run record. Another great outfielder who could do it all: hit, run, hit with power, field, great arm. What people don't know about Henry Aaron is when he was on the verge of breaking Ruth's record, he received a death threat, a letter saying he better not appear at the ballpark that day because he wouldn't live to see the day end. And in those days, they didn't have metal detectors in the ballparks, and anybody could bring a gun into the park. But Henry Aaron played that day, and of course, nothing ever happened. Number 8, Say Hey, Willie Mays. Great outfielder, center fielder with the New York Giants, who also has played with the San Francisco Giants when the team left to the West Coast. People are still talking about the catch Mays made in the Polo Grounds in the World Series with Detroit. The Polo Grounds had a center field that just went back forever and ever, probably about 500 feet to the clubhouse. And Mays caught it just in front of the clubhouse steps on his over-the-shoulder catch, one of the great catches of all-time baseball. So that was number 8, Willie Mays. And number 7, perhaps the greatest hitter in the history of baseball, Ted Williams, the splendid splinter. Williams played left field for the Boston Red Sox. He was the last hitter to hit 400, and that was some time ago. And Williams' career was interrupted by World War II. He served in the Air Force for 4 years, or he would have broken a lot more records than he did. Number 6, Stan the Man Musial, a great all-around ball player. He could hit, he could run, throw, did it all. Truly a great player, and I had the privilege of seeing him come to bat. You know how visiting players are often booed when they play at the home team? Well, when he played at Ebbets Field, people didn't boo him, they applauded him. That's how great he was. Stan the Man. That was number 6. Number 5, Lou Gehrig. Gehrig played in consecutive games, every game, for 24 years. Did not miss one game. Didn't matter if he was sick, had a cold, a bad back, a pain in the arm or leg. Gehrig played every game, every inning of every game for 24 years. And when he retired, it was only because he was sick and dying. He was dying of a disease which later was named the Lou Gehrig disease. And 75,000 people turned out at Yankee Stadium to say goodbye to Gehrig. And of course, everybody remembers his great speech, the wonderful words he used. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And 75,000 people had tears in their eyes. Even Babe Ruth, who was not a big fan of Gehrig, had tears in his eyes as he heard those words. So number 5 is Lou Gehrig. Number 4 is the Yankee Clipper, Joe DiMaggio. One of the truly great players. I had the privilege of seeing DiMaggio play in an exhibition game against the Dodgers in Ebbets Field, and he ran into left center field to catch a line drive. He backhanded it 1 foot in front of the wall and threw out a runner from third that was tagging up. His throw reached the catcher on the fly. It was probably the greatest throw ever seen in Ebbets Field. And that was Joe DiMaggio. Hit in 56 consecutive games. Went 56 games without missing at least one, getting at least one hit. And that's a record that is still standing and probably will always stand. Even though all the records are eventually broken, this one may never get broken. 56 consecutive games with at least one hit. Number 3, Honus Wagner, the Flying Dutchman. Never saw him play, but he broke 400 many times. Great hitter, great ball player. He has 1 million records in the record book. Honus Wagner. Number 2 is Ty Cobb, also a player who hit 400 many times. Ty Cobb could hit with the best of them, and he stole bases. He holds a record for the most stolen bases in a career, over 700. Rumor has it that when Ty Cobb broke for second base, the catcher didn't throw to second, the catcher threw to third, feeling there was no chance to get him at second. Let's just hold him at second, and so he threw to third. That's just a rumor. And number 1, the Bambino, Babe Ruth. Ruth was credited with saving baseball. After the Black Sox scandal. That's what it was called. It was the Chicago White Sox who threw the World Series game. And people stopped going to ball games after that. The idea that a game could be fixed. And people weren't going to the ballparks. But along came Babe Ruth and hitting home runs, and people wanted to see him. So when he played, whether it was in Chicago or Cleveland or Detroit, record crowds came, and Ruth was credited with saving baseball. The Babe was known as a womanizer and a heavy drinker. But what many people didn't realize is he spent a great deal of his time, many evenings, in hospitals, children's hospitals. He loved kids, and he very often visited kids in hospitals in every city that he visited. In those days, there were no night games. The games were played in the afternoon. And so the Babe was free in the evenings. And he's number one. So much for my picks. Now for the questions. Question number one, and just call out the answers. Just shout out the answers as loud as you can. When a fly ball hits the foul pole, is it fair or foul? And if you said it's a fair ball, you are correct. Some people think it should be changed from a foul pole to the fair pole, because if it hits the pole, it's fair. Question number two. What famous U.S. general placed fifth in the decathlon in 1922 Olympics? And the answer is George Patton, General Patton. Great athlete. Number three. What is the first two women's sports included in the modern Olympics? And that would be tennis and golf. Next. What two teams played in the very first college football game ever? Hint, they're in New Jersey. And if you said Princeton and Rutgers, you are correct. That was the first football game ever in college. What pitcher threw two consecutive no-hitters? And that was Johnny Vandermeer of the Cincinnati Reds. And the second no-hitter was played in the very first night game at Ebbets Field, Brooklyn. Johnny Vandermeer. What was Babe Ruth's first name? And that was George Herman Ruth. Who was the first player to win a Cy Young Award and an MVP, a Most Valuable Player Award? And that was a great pitcher from the Brooklyn Dodgers, Big Don Newcomb. Number 8. What was Lou Gehrig's nickname? And that was the Iron Horse. That's what Indians called the first train, the Iron Horse. Pete Sampras won 14 Grand Slam events in tennis, which was the only Grand Slam tournament that he did not win. And that was the French Open. He managed to get to the semifinals of the French Open, but he never won the French Open. Singer Johnny Mathis was a world-class athlete in the decathlon. What event did he partake in? And that was the high jump. Johnny Mathis was a high jumper. What are the three races in the Triple Crown? 3 horse races in the Triple Crown. And if you said the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes, and the Belmont Stakes, you got it. What Mets pitcher was called Dr. K? And that was Dwight Gooden. The K is the what you put in your scorecard when somebody strikes out. And fans started bringing these cardboards and they put all the K's down, and Gooden became Dr. K. Doc Gooden. How long is a football field? "100 yards" is correct. What famous sports announcer was banned from the 1940 Olympics because he was Jewish? And that would be Marty Glickman. He was a track man, but they didn't want to embarrass Adolf Hitler since the Olympics were held in Berlin. So Marty Glickman was banned from going to Germany. Next question. What two cities did the Braves play in before they came to Atlanta? Where were the Braves before Atlanta? The answer was Boston and Milwaukee. The Boston Braves, then the Milwaukee Braves, and finally the Atlanta Braves. What were the original hockey teams in the National Hockey League? The original teams. And that would be the Boston Bruins, the New York Rangers, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, Montreal Canadiens, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. What is the NBA basketball team? Why is the NBA basketball team in Los Angeles called the Lakers? And the answer is they were called the Lakers because they came from Minneapolis. And Minnesota is the land of the lakes. Right now, they got other problems. What is a perfect score in bowling? And the answer is 300. Just got to throw 10 strikes. What major league player hit home runs from both sides of the plate in the same game and did it 10 different times? And that's the great outfielder from the New York Yankees, Mickey Mantle. 10 times he hit home runs from either side of the plate. What major league player had his number retired in 3 different teams? And that was Nolan Ryan. Had it retired from the Los Angeles Angels, the Houston Astros, and the Texas Rangers. What is the name of the men's golf tournament held between teams in the United States and Europe? And that's the Ryder Cup. First Ryder Cup was in 1927. Next question. How high is a soccer goal? And the answer is 8 feet. 8 feet high. Who is the only player to win the U.S. Open tennis title on 3 different surfaces? And the answer, Jimmy Connors. Won the title on grass, on clay, and on hard court. Who was the first NFL player to play 25 years in the National Football League? And that was the great George Blanda. And my last question of the day, what is the only community-owned franchise in the National Football League? And that is the Green Bay Packers. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Stay well. And happy birthday, Mida.
We are recording this afternoon's programming, and it's just technologically, it was easier just to let the sports trivia with Bert just run right through the recording. So I say that for the benefit of Mida's family, who will hopefully be watching this at a later time. So Bert does his sports trivia every Friday at that time, so that works out well. Well, we are expecting Mida to arrive shortly, and we are starting our official programming in a few minutes. We will let her sit here when she comes in, and we will be doing a sing-along honoring her life of some favorite tunes that Paul Bateman's going to sing. And then we will be having a little more fun around 2:30. So stay tuned. We'll be starting as soon as Mida gets here. I'll get you your, here we go.
We all set? John? Okay. Greetings, folks. This is Friday. That means Simple Melodies. But today we have a special. We're celebrating Mida Kalin's 103rd birthday. The first three songs we're going to do are from her birth year, 1917. The first song, Missouri Waltz, is quite appropriate because Mida was born in Eldon, Missouri. This was the #1 hit of that year. Hush you by my baby, slumber time is coming soon. Rest your head upon my breast while mama hums a tune. The Sandman is calling where shadows are falling while the salt breezes sigh as in days long gone by. Way down in old Missouri when I heard this melody. When I was a little babe upon my mama's knee, the old folks were humming, the banjos were strumming, so sweet and low. Also from 1917, the Darktown Strutters Ball. I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey. You better be ready about 8:30. Now, dearie, don't be late. I want to be there when the band starts playing. Remember when we get there, honey, the two-step, I'm going to have them call. I'm going to dance off for my shoes when they play those Jello blues. Tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutters Ball. A nice romantic song from 1917 for me and my gal. Bells are ringing for me and my gal. The birds are singing for me and my gal. Everybody's been knowing to wedding we're going, and for weeks we've been sewing. Every Susie and Sal, they're congregating for me and my gal. The parson's waiting for me and my gal. And sometime I'm gonna build a little home for 2 or 3 or 4 or more in love land for me and my gal. Mida did her nurse's training at the Deaconess Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. You have which one? Oh, sorry, jumped the gun. Or back up. Mida spent a few years in her early childhood in Laramie, Wyoming, where the family lived on a ranch. Don't fence me in. Give me land, lots of land, under starry skies above. Don't fence me in. Let me ride through the wide open country that I love. Don't fence me in. Let me be by myself in the evening breeze. Listen to the murmur of the cottonwood trees. Send me off forever, but I ask you please, don't fence me in. Just turn me loose. Let me straddle my old saddle underneath the skies. On my cayuse, let me wander over yonder till I see the mountain rise. I want to ride to the ridge where the west commences, gaze at the moon till I lose my senses. Can't look at hobbles and I can't stand fences. Don't fence me in. Home on the range. Me a home where the buffalo roam, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope plain, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. Home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope play, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. From the same time period, Ain't She Sweet, 1927. Start over. Ain't she sweet? See her coming down the street. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Ain't she nice? Look her over once or twice. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't she nice? Just cast an eye in her direction. Oh me, oh my, ain't that perfection? I may be, don't you think it's kind of neat? And I ask you very confidentially, ain't she sweet? Now we get to the right page. Mida did her nurse's training at the Deaconess Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. The song, Meet Me in St. Louis. When Louis came home to the flat, he hung up his coat and his hat. He gazed all around, but no wifey he found. So he said, "Can Flossie be that?" A note on the table he spied. He read it just once, then he cried. It ran, "Louis dear, it's too slow for me here, so I think I will go for a ride. Meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair. Don't tell me the lights are shining any place but there. We will dance the hoochie coochie. You will be my tootsie wootsie. If you meet me in St. Louis, Louis, meet me at the fair." When Mida decided to enter the Army Nurses Corps, she did her basic training in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Sweet Betsy from Pike. Don't you remember sweet Betsy from Pike, who crossed the wide prairie with her lover Ike, with 2 yoke of oxen and a big yaller dog, a tall string, a rooster, and 1 spotted hog. Foodle-dang, foodle-dee-day, foodle-dang, foodle-day. Old Ike and sweet Betsy attended a dance where Ike wore a pair of his Pike County pants. Sweet Betsy was covered with ribbons and rings. Said Ike, "You're an angel, but where are your wings?" Foodle-dang, foodle-dee-day, oh hey dang, foodle-day. That's hard to do. Springtime in the Rockies. Springtime in the Rockies, I am coming back to you. Little sweetheart on the mountain, with your bonny eyes so blue. Once again I say I love you, while the birds sing all the day. Little sweetheart of the Rockies, in the Rockies far away. In recognition of Mida's World War II service to the Pacific, here are two songs from the musical South Pacific. Valley High may call you any night, any day. In your heart you'll hear it call you, come away, come away. Valley High will whisper on the wind of the sea. Here am I, your special island, come to me, come to me. Your own special hopes, your own special dreams, bloom on the hillside and shine in the streams. If you try, you'll find me where the sky meets the sea. Here am I, your special island. Come to me, come to me. Valley high, valley high, valley high. And some enchanted evening. Some enchanted evening. You may see a stranger. You may see a stranger across a crowded room. And somehow you know even then, that somewhere you'll see her again and again. Some enchanted evening, someone may be laughing. You may hear laughing across a crowded room, and night after night, as strange as it seems, the sound of her laughter will ring in your dreams. Who can explain it? Who can tell you why? Fools give you reasons, wise men never try. Some enchanted evening, when you find your true love, when you feel her call you across a crowded room, then fly to her side and make her your own. For all through your life you will dream all alone. Once you have found her, never let her go. Once you have found her, never let her go. Two songs in honor of Mida's Army nursing career. Caissons go rolling along. Over hill, over dale, as we hit the dusty trail, as those caissons go rolling along. In and out, hear them shout, counter marching right about, and the caissons go rolling along. Then it's high, high, he, the field artillery, Shout out your numbers loud and strong. 1, 2. For wherever you go, you will always know that those caissons go rolling along. In the storm, in the night, action left or action right, see those caissons go rolling along. Limber left, limber rear, prepare out your cannoneer, and the caissons go rolling along. Then it's high, high, he in the field artillery. Shout out your numbers loud and strong. For wherever you go, you will always know that those caissons go rolling along. And for a change of pace, all good nurses know that a good dose of chicken soup is good for what ails you. Here's a number called Chicken Soup, the lyrics by Garrison Keillor, and to the tune of White Coral Bells. Good chicken soup, a grand and glorious meal. Lift the hearts no matter how upset you feel. 3 quarts of water in an iron pot. Add a pinch of salt and bake to broiling hot. Toss in 3 pounds of meaty chicken wings, gizzard chicken necks and backs and wings and hearts. Parsley and dill, some carrots would be nice. Parsley, noodles, celery, and onion slice. Simmer for an hour with the cover on. Half an hour uncovered till some liquid's gone. Good chicken soup, good for heart and soul. No matter what your troubles, it can make you whole. Among Mida's favorite pastime for vacationing in the Adirondacks, here's an appropriate song for wandering in the mountains. And bird watching, of course. I love to go a-wandering along the mountain track. And as I go, I love to sing my knapsack on my back. Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, my knapsack on my back. I wave my hat to all I meet, and they wave back to me. And blackbirds call so loud and sweet from every greenwood tree. Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, my knapsack on my back. Oh, may I go a-wandering till the day I die. And may I always laugh and sing beneath God's clear blue sky. Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, Valderie, Valdera, my knapsack on my back. And now, our ending number, a very good one. Okay. Mida, sweet as apple cider, sweeter than all we know. Come out in the silvery moonlight, of love we'll whisper, so soft and low. Seems can't live without you. Listen, oh honeydew, Mida, we idolize you. Oh, love you, Mida, Mida, did we do? I have no idea. you, sir.
Can we put those 103?
Yeah.
Just leave it there now because there is one there. Oh, okay. Then over there, please, to her. Okay.
Yeah, right here.
That's her favorite bird cage. No, a bird cage. We're adding and adding. These are beautiful. So goes this way, like that? I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. So Michelle will let you talk from there. Okay. And then you ladies talk from here. You two want to read your cards, right? Jason, let's put this on the table.
But Ronnie has people, should they come back?
Well, I said just take a couple minutes.
Or just come back? Okay.
Unless you wanted to take first.
Wow.
Okay,
It'll be fine. I think we're gonna take first.
right there, girl.
Okay. Sandra, we're gonna do that in a minute, Sandra. Sandra, we're gonna do that in a minute. Okay, so why don't we have the staff come on in? Hopefully I'm on, right, Gretchen? Okay. Hi, everyone, and hi, Mida. Happy birthday, 103. We've got a crew. You guys ready to sing? Yeah. Paul, you ready to sing? Okay. Gretchen, you ready to play? Very special birthday for a very special lady. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mida. Happy birthday to you. Yay! Yeah. Happy birthday, Mida. That's right. That's right. Mida, I have a little something for you. Hopefully you drink tea. This is a Woodland Pond teacup and some chamomile tea. You're welcome. Happy birthday. I've also got some things here, Mida. You were recognized by the Ulster County Legislature for being, such a remarkable person, such a remarkable contributor to Ulster County. So Ulster County Legislator Eve Walter had this plaque prepared for you. And she also wrote you a letter. I'll read it. Mida, the letter that accompanies that plaque says the following. Dear Ms. Kalin, it is my honor to send you this heartfelt good wishes of the Ulster County Legislature and the people of Ulster County on your 103rd birthday. Your friends at Woodland Pond have told me so much about your career as a nurse in World War II, and Kingston Hospital. I am so proud to know individuals like yourself who overcame, yes, that's yours. That's yours. Who overcame so many trials, challenges, and social barriers that women take for granted today. I hope that when this quarantine is over, we will have an opportunity to meet you in person. This birthday is just one more milestone to mark a lifetime of dedication and service to your community and the nation. May you continue to touch the lives of those around you and inspire us. And that's from the Ulster County Legislator, Eve Walter. Thank you, Eve. And for those on camera, the plaque reads, Pride of Ulster County, an award presented by the Ulster County Legislature to Mida Kalin. Congratulations and best wishes on the occasion of your 103rd birthday, with the sincere admiration and gratitude for a lifetime of service above self. And it's dated today, and it's signed by David Donaldson, who is the chairman of the Ulster County Legislature. Congratulations.
Mida. It's not on. Mida, happy birthday. This plant is to you from the entire Woodland Pond family. It's all of us. So happy birthday from all of us to Mida.
Hi, Mida. Good to see you. And, oh. Thank you. Sure. Okay. It's so good to see you, Mida. And my wishes, I'm wishing you a birthday wrapped in happiness. But my gift to you cannot be wrapped. It's a few hours of bird watching in the Fisher's Garden.
Happy birthday. That's a
Yes.
nice card, Connie.
And where do we put these?
I'll take care of it for you. Thanks. You're welcome. Come on over, Sandra.
My dear Mida.
A little bit louder.
Oh, my dear Mida. Wishing you every happiness on this very special day. Remember our Sunday hikes? Oh, we had a great group. Oh, every Sunday we had hikes together. I'm sending you virtual hugs and many kisses. Sandra. Yes.
Happy birthday.
Such a happy birthday. Wow. Here comes a virtual kiss. Mwah. And a virtual hug. Oh. Did you get it? Did you get my hug? Oh, I got my arms around you. It's wonderful to celebrate your 103rd birthday. Wow.
I can take that one, Sandra.
Good. Oh, there she is.
Hi, Mida. I'm Billy Stevens, and I'm going to read the other cards that have been sent for you on this great occasion of your 103rd birthday. This one is coming from Vivian Stoner, and it says, "Happy birthday. Wishing you a bright and beautiful day. Peace for your soul, joy for your spirit, love for your heart. May all these things be yours. Love from your neighbor, Vivian Stoner, pardon me. Thank you. Okay. This is the only one. Thank you. And this is a beautiful handcrafted card from Bernice Hummel. Very well done. Dear Mida, congratulations on your amazing milestone. May this day be filled with sunshine, smiles, laughter, and love. Have a very happy 103rd birthday, Mida, from Bernice Hummel. The next one is from Adrian Turner. On this special day, Mida, wishing you a day as lovely as you are. Happy birthday. Congratulations on reaching 103. Your former and present neighbor, Adrian Turner. And this one is from Mary Jo. How absolutely wonderful you are, Mida. Happy birthday. And it's filled with beautiful flowers. You are amazing. A very happy 103rd birthday. Love, Mary Jo. And from Jean Crawford, we have a poem that she is sharing. The Birthday Beatitudes. Blessed are those who take birthdays in stride, who can smile when the big day is here. Blessed are those who can look back with pride on another enjoyable year. Blessed are those who have stayed young at heart, who will always seem right in their prime. Blessed are those who have mastered the art of living one day at a time. Blessed are those who could never be said to have bowed to today's tears and sorrows. Blessed are those who keep looking ahead to a brighter and better tomorrow. Blessed are those who have learned how to see all the beauty of sharing and giving. Blessed are those who've discovered that life is really worth living. To you from Jean Crawford.
Very happy birthday to you, Mida. I think we're going to light the candles. Can she, Irina, can she stand up by her seat? Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mida. Happy birthday to you. Yay. Yeah, right here. She can cut it. Just for one cut, right in the middle. Yes. Oh, watch your fingers. Yeah, there we go. All right, we can take it from there. Yeah, great job. Happy birthday, Mida. Okay. Thank you, Gretchen. This is fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And we'll share this cake with everybody now. The kitchen will cut it.
So that concludes our programming for today, a very special day of programming. And we are going to take the cake and cut some pieces, and hopefully we'll get enough pieces for you. And again, we are so grateful that we could record this so that Mida's family and friends who live outside of the community can enjoy this later. So thanks again, everybody, for your participation, and happy birthday, Mida. Thank you. One more thing, stay tuned, everybody, on the channel. We're going to stop the programming in here, but keep the channel on because Irina's daughter has prepared some pictures that Jason's going to show right now. So we're going to stop filming in here, and don't turn off your TV, and you get to see some pictures that she prepared. Oh, it's Jason downstairs. No, we're not going to see it in here, but it'll be on the TV in the other room. We won't see it. Yeah.